Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast yet again. It's the third episode. Thank you all very much for the views on the last episodes. We've changed up a little bit this week. Everything we promised last week has gone out the window, except Ben.
Just put it out there,
yeah. So I have a little bit of news, but just other weird facts from history and some strange facts that you hopefully have never heard of before.
I love strange facts.
I love strange facts. So do I, to be fair. I'm full of strange shit.
Wozzy watches.
Just to be clear, avid sports fans, we are not going to tell you what we're doing the week after now. It'll be a complete surprise.
It'll be a surprise.
Russian roulette.
It'll be a surprise to all of us.
Right, so obviously the big thing about at the minute is obviously storm, the big storm that's going on.
Paris.
Storm Darren.
Paris.
Storm Darren that's going on at the moment, and obviously it's still carrying on as we're recording this podcast. Still got yellow warnings and stuff in Wales, mostly for the wind, not so much the rain now. It is kind of branching up to you guys as well a little bit, and down to Cornwall. But yeah, we've obviously spoken to a couple of our friends and stuff, and they said it has been quite bad this week. 2 people have sadly died from the weather conditions as they have been over the weekend. 2 separate incidents, but both were hit by a falling tree while in their cars. One in the West Midlands and one in Lancashire. 54 flood warnings and 135 less severe flood warnings have been issued by the Met Office. Red warnings are quite rare generally, such as so widespread as they have been. And obviously Wales and stuff just got hurt by Storm Bert. That was a couple of weeks ago, and they've got 9 flood warnings still and 18 alerts still in place at the moment. And a lot of places have lost power and stuff as well. And obviously, Andrew, you guys were saying you had it quite bad up your way and stuff as well.
Yeah, so obviously I live in Liverpool. I live about a mile away from Goodison Park. It's interesting because obviously they called off the Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. And I'm interested for people to think to themselves about whether or not that was the right thing for them to do, because there's quite a lot of anger about that. And I saw this one story about this fella who'd spent his life savings coming over from Australia to watch the game. But actually, the point I'm kind of making is they shouldn't be encouraged. I went out and I only drove to Warrington. It's about a half an hour drive away, and I felt really unsafe on the road. It was, and I enjoy driving usually, and there's a lot of debris on the roads and a lot of cars are swerving a lot, and that nervy feeling you get when it's windy and you drive next to a lorry. So I think they've done the right thing, not encouraging 40,000 people to travel to there. Personally, and there's a lot of games. They are mostly in Wales, but there's broadly in Wales and the West Midlands. But there are a lot of games that have been called off this weekend, which seems to me to be the right thing.
Surely, if this man has travelled from, where did you say, Australia?
Yeah.
Surely he'd have felt the winds in the plane.
Well, I assume he'd maybe arrived before, but again, you don't feel when. I think what people forget is, and we get quite bad publicity as a country over how we handle weather. But I think what people forget is we're not equipped for really poor weather as a country. Yeah. People talk about us being too hot and stuff like that, and going, well, it's but Australians will always defend us and say, yeah, but in Australia, there's aircon in every single building. Like we don't have aircon really anywhere. The house would I have a friend who bought an aircon unit for a house, and it was like about $2,000. So we're just, and the same with winds, the way that our houses are built, we're a bit better built for wind than maybe America, where they build houses out of wood because they know that the weather. In
America, the people are built for wind. People are built for wind. They can stand sturdy.
So they build houses out of wood because they're kind of cheaper to replace because they know they'll get destroyed. But we're quite poorly equipped for the weather. So, my heart does go out to the people that, have lost lives or lost loved ones or have had property damaged. It's really tough to take when something's not your fault and you've got to pay a fortune.
Yeah. Like you said, interestingly, we say we're not equipped, but look at it this way. Everybody moaned. Probably remember, what was it, 5-6 years ago now? 2 years on the trot, we had the worst snow and whatever that we'd seen in 50 odd years. But have you seen any since? You know, our weather is so irregular that if the government spent billions of pounds on these defences, we wouldn't need them again for 10 years when that money is better used towards the NHS, you know, the police, schooling, education, stuff like that. So that's probably why they don't do it. We haven't got consistent extreme heat. We haven't got consistent extreme cold. We haven't got consistent flooding. We've got sporadic outbursts of weather based on climate change. So that's probably why we're so badly equipped.
Yeah, but when weather like that happens, don't they also they put it down to an act of God? So even with all of the damage that's done, the most of it doesn't get insured, does it not?
No. So your insurance will pay out, but your premiums will go through the roof. It's your responsibility ultimately. It's the same thing as well. I think with snow is that like Americans would say, well, like if you live in New York or anywhere sort of in the northern half of the United States, they would say, well, why have you not got chains for your tires and those? Well, actually, that's not even something you can buy here, really. Like chains for your tires, and they have snow plows and snow shovel, and you can buy snow shovels, but you know they have snow plows out all the time. Well, we have gritting machines for ice, but has anyone ever seen a snow plow in this country? We just don't get it enough. Some years it doesn't snow at all.
So yeah, I see a documentary not long ago about like obviously the weather and stuff getting worse and the snow and how like the UK is not really equipped to handle like extreme weathers on either end. And they were basically saying like snow. So they had really big snow. 2009 was a really big year for snow. Like it snowed a lot that kind of January, February. And then before that it was 91, and then it was 63, and then 47 was like the last major snowfalls. And they like literally I see Boris Johnson talking about it when he was Prime Minister, and he was basically saying like it doesn't warrant enough for them to get hundreds of snow plows and have all this kind of different stuff and everything to get it ready. Because like New York and stuff have like they like hire people just to go out and shovel all the pavements and stuff for days on end. Or like if the snow's that bad, they'll declare a snow day and no one will lose payment from work or anything like that. Literally, you won't like miss school, like you won't get shit for it. Literally, like the mayor declares a snow day and it's declared. And like Russia have like set people that do different things just because like they get more substantial weather more often. And here it's just so because they're saying been like so sporadic, it's just they can't really plan for stuff.
Yeah. And it's difficult to prepare for wind, within reason. Obviously, our bridges are kind of built to be flexible and things like that. But it's difficult to prepare for that without kind of redoing your whole infrastructure, the way that you build your houses and those sorts of things. It's tough. I feel for people, but like Warren said, it's an act of God thing, so to speak. And it's a tough one. It's a tough one to take.
It's the phase of the way the world is at the minute as well. Because I don't know if you've ever heard of El Nino and La Nina before. And it's basically it's to do with like the Gulf Stream, like the wind and stuff, and it's to do with like ocean currents. So basically, like we're in La Nina now, so there's more colder water basically sitting higher in the oceans than they normally would do, because the wind's not driving it down and moving the ocean around enough. And basically, that's going to for the next couple of years, it's going to keep it colder on average. So like our winters will be now wetter and rainier and like it will snow and it will get bad at times. Do you know what I mean? It's going to affect kind of the whole world.
Well, we live in such a cutthroat society now that I'm not naming places, obviously, but there are literally with all this wind that's been happening, there have been buildings that the roofs have come off, and their competitors in business have gone along and said, well, they've been damaged, they now cannot work, so we need to work more to sell what they can't sell because they're down, and basically run them down while we hire our profits. So it's just so people take advantage of that situation.
Yeah,
well, I would argue there's a supply and demand issue there, though. I'd argue that if all of the Asdas in the world if all the Asdas in the world, the I don't know, the electronic or the tech elements or the tills or whatever all went down and they had to close, I'd argue that your likes of Tesco, for example, have a responsibility there as well.
Well, this was a specific toy store. It was a toy store.
Action Men.
Yeah. So I didn't want to name names, but it was a toy store.
Where's Ben going to get his Lego from?
I mean, to be fair, mate, I'm not gonna risk my life in that wind for a bit of Lego. I'll order it. I'll order it on Amazon. They can deliver. I'll let them do it.
People were coming out and complaining about the wind to us in work, and they were like, "God, it's awful out there. It's awful." It's like, yeah, but you've chose to come out in this. Like, you're picking up a pint of milk. Surely you could have waited.
Have you ever been in that situation where you look like you're straight out the Funny Farm, walking down the street, your umbrella's fucked off the other way up, and you look like something out of Mary Poppins? Just don't do it anymore, mate. No. I'll stay in. It's not worth it, mate. It's not worth it.
There is a certain generation, isn't there, that will risk life and limb for a pint of milk.
They all wear shorts as well.
Yeah, that's me. I'm wearing shorts. I've walked the dog today. I've been shopping, and I wore shorts for both. I wear shorts all of the time.
I'll be honest, I'm wearing shorts right now.
I'm wearing Xbox pajamas.
People laugh at me, but I wear shorts everywhere. I walked the dog today for 40 minutes out in the freezer. It was cold. My hands were colder, though. I wear shorts all the time.
You've got a small dog as well. I can imagine you at Lee just...
He wears a coat. The dog wears a coat. I didn't wear a coat, but the dog wears a coat.
I just realised I did a visual aid there and no one's going to be able to see it.
You see it on YouTube, maybe.
Well, you can see it on Spotify, because I actually watched on Spotify this week.
Oh.
Yeah, I did upload the video content to go alongside the audio on Spotify both times, so you can see it.
So to go on to the next one, which is a bit of a different disaster. So go back a couple of 100 years. So I was saying to these boys, Warren, while you was trying to sort out your technical difficulties, have you ever heard of the beer flood? The beer flood of 1814.
No, but it sounds like I would like it.
Yeah.
So basically, so it's 17th of October. Yeah, it's quite cold. It's London, in quite like a really poor driven area. So St Giles back in the day literally was just a really cheap. It was a slum, basically. The way it's described. Huh?
No, nothing.
And so there's this brewery on the corner. There's a theatre or something there now, but literally it was just this brewery on the corner. And back then they used to use like these massive wooden like fermentation tanks. This thing was like 22 foot high. So literally, it basically held the equivalent of 3,500 barrels of ale. Right in this fermentation tank, and it's boiling hot as well because it's fermenting, getting this ale ready. This ale is like a stout as well, so it's quite sturdy stuff. And basically it's just this giant wooden tank, and it had like these massive iron rings that went all around it to hold the wood together. And on the 17th, one broke. One of the iron bars just broke, and then about an hour later, the whole thing gave way. And it's basically just a tsunami happened of ale came out of it, right? literally, the way it's described in the thing is literally a tsunami of ale came out of the brewery, like with such force that it blew the backside of the brewery off. Like the whole wall of the backside of the brewery blew off because it was fucking so like strong. And it all flooded out into the street and that. So about 320,000 gallons of ale came out of the brewery, all boiling hot, but mind you as well. And it killed 8 people.
Oh,
like inside, it flooded into basements and stuff where people were staying. So some people drowned, some people got caught into debris, like a local pub.
Is it their turn to get cut for this one? They were laughing. Is it their turn to get cut?
Yeah, not so funny now.
Yeah, that's right. I held my laughter.
They think a 9th person died because people ran out in the streets with anything that could hold liquids, any container they could find, to scoop up this ale because obviously they wanted to drink it. And they reckon about a few days later they had somebody in hospital and they thought that he had severe blood poisoning, like alcohol poisoning in his blood.
Was his name Ricky Lee?
I've no idea.
When you air this bit, Ben, just cut off all of our faces.
Just me talking. So yeah, basically the flood cost the brewery about £23,000, and today it'd be worth about £1.25 million in like damages and loss of product.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Yeah,
I mean, I did like the way you worded the how the beer got out the back of the building.
Blew out the back of it. Yeah,
something about getting your back door smashed in by a beer.
It's a beer that normally causes that, isn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking that.
So yeah, that's the beer flood of 18.
We're all going to hell.
And now just my 10 random facts to finish off. So honeybees can recognize human faces, so they can recognize who people are.
But that's like the most useless thing because they die 2 days later.
Right.
No.
Like,
I don't think that's relevant. Also, honeybees don't live for 2 days.
I've seen a B movie. I have seen a B movie.
Bees will actually.
Quite happy though. At least when he re-sees me, he's not going to sting me because he knows I'm a nice guy.
Yeah, exactly.
If he
Yeah.
stung you, he would die anyway. Bees will. All their entrails come out when they sting people.
Identical twins have unique features. So identical twins can have different fingerprints because of the environmental factors in the womb. The length of the umbilical cord and the rate of fingernail growth as well could be different.
Wow.
The Olympic Games awarded medals for art between 1912 and 1948, giving awards for things like painting, music, sculpture, and architecture. No idea how they would have judged them or
because
whatever.
different people have different techniques and different art styles. So
it wasn't always a sports thing, was it? Like
no,
it was a Greek thing, and the Greeks were very into art.
Yeah,
it'd have had to have been very subjective though.
Yeah, probably.
A cloud weighs around 1 million tons because of the amount of water and stuff it's got in it.
Wow, that's really heavy.
Giraffes. I know.
Live in Paris. Live in Paris. Live in Paris.
Giraffes are 30 times more likely to get hit by lightning than people.
Well, that's the long necks, I imagine.
Because they're so high up, yeah.
Yeah, they're closer to the sky. Closer to them heavy clouds.
If you'd have asked me to name an animal that's more likely to get hit, but a giraffe would have been a safe bet, really.
Yeah. The deepest part of the ocean is approximately 35,876 feet down.
And that's just what we know of, isn't it?
That's inside the Marianas Trench, yeah.
And don't on a side note, don't you find that really strange, right? That, people like Elon Musk can get a spaceship all the way to the moon and to Mars, but we still can't even get down a little bit of water on our planet.
Completely different
the
ballpark.
Pressure, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you say a little bit of water, Ben,
were you listening to the measurements?
I think it's like an unfathomable amount of water.
Miles of water on top of
it. In comparison to the multi-million light years from here to Mars, and the fact there's no gravity, no air, we know what's here. We know what's going on in our. I would have thought they would have found a way of reducing pressure.
They've said there's so many creatures that are still unknown in the ocean itself. Megalodon. I rate there's still Megalodon.
I was going to say, do you still think it exists down there? Is he still? I've
seen the movies. Yeah, gotta be.
Are we out of facts, Cam? Or
I'm pretty much there. I mean, the oldest living land animal is a tortoise named Jonathan. He's 192 years old and he's still alive.
Go on, Johnny.
And that's me. Yeah.
Beautiful. Any fact that starts with the word giraffes is always okay by me.
There are giraffes in Paris.
I heard.
Can you explain this to me?
Oh yeah, you weren't there. So Cam changed what he was going to talk about. So all week and after the thing, I was waiting to use the joke all week. It was only a little joke. It wasn't even that funny, but I was waiting to use it all week because he talked about the beavers in London last week. He was going to talk about the news this week, and I made a joke about the news being giraffes in Paris.
So Wozzy really wanted to introduce Cam this week, and he was going to say, and now here's Cam to tell us about the giraffes in Paris. But Cam,
I have to say, though, I thought the beavers in London I think you underappreciate the beavers in London story, Warren, because that's
not underappreciate it. It led me to the giraffes in Paris.
Okay, so this week I also changed what I'd like to talk about. Only because I was going to talk about AI, and then I realised everything I knew about AI was to do with AI in teaching, and nobody really wants to listen to me talk about AI in teaching. And when I researched general AI, it didn't really tell me anything interesting. Like, it was all stuff that you kind of would guess or know, and all a little bit frightening, kind of, in a way, about like self-learning AI and stuff like that. So I've decided I'd like to something light-hearted is to talk about travel. So to talk about our travel experiences, where are the best places we've been, where are the worst places we've been, what are some kind of difficult experiences we've had whilst traveling. This has come about just today because I was thinking about, we were discussing next year's holiday. I'm going to book it. We always book it in January. So because I've caught you all off guard, I thought I'll go first, and then you just kind of think of something while I do. So it's interesting because I was looking at TripAdvisor's top 10 places to visit, and it's like number 1 is Tokyo, and it's places like that, Bogota, and really exotic, wonderful places, brilliant places. Tokyo is also, incidentally, I think, the most expensive city in the world. And then I realized that my favorite place to go is Tenerife, because I'm very much someone who on a holiday, I like to relax and I like to chill and I work hard and I just want to kind of sit by the pool, have a swim, have a beer, those kinds of things. And all it got me thinking about, and I hope that one person hears this. I mean, I hope more than one person hears it, but I hope that one person hears this and learns something from it and thinks about it. So as we all know, I used to be a fair bit heavier. I've lost 5 stone in the last 3-4 months.
5.5.
No, I'm just under 5. I've got 4 stone, 8 pound, and 8.5 pounds. But I reckon it'll be 412-ish by after this week. So anyway, we were coming back from, I think we were coming back from Tenerife, and on the way there, this woman sits next to me. And I recognize her because we've got the same phone case, because I used to have a flip phone case like an old lady, and everyone always laughed at me for it. But she's got the same one, but it's blue. Anyway, I look around after sort of 10 minutes after we take off, and she's gone. So she's moved. Okay, so maybe her family are sat somewhere else on the plane. Anyway, they've clearly booked the same holiday as us, because on the way back, she's next to me again. Only this time, me and Tiernan got on the plane last. And as we're coming down the aisle, she's going, "Oh my God. Oh, for goodness sake." I think, what's wrong with her? So I sit, this is going to be fun, isn't it? This is going to be comfortable. So I'm starting to get the vibe now. I'm starting to feel quite uncomfortable and things like that. And she's got massive writing on her phone because she's like an old lady. So as I sit down, she's typed into her phone. Of course, I end up sat next to the big fat man. And if you, as we got in our taxi at the airport, I give her a swift middle finger. But if you get on a plane at any point, or if you're traveling and you end up sat next to a large person, or a large person is in your way, large people are people and they're human beings. And I'd love for anyone, as much as this is about travel, and I'll say some nice things about travel, if you are, just take that bit of kind of humanity with you, no matter how old you get or how frustrated or tired you are. And everyone's tired when they're traveling, I get it, but take that little bit of humanity with you, because actually it's something, it was a couple of years ago, and it's something that I think about all of the time. And in reality, whilst I sort of, give her a middle finger, I was actually very upset. Tiernan needed a wee about 2 hours before we landed, and I refused. I had to hold it in because I wouldn't get up. I was in the middle, and I wouldn't get up because I couldn't bear to ask her to move so I could get past her. So, just a little nod for anyone to be a little bit more, a little bit considerate. And I'm sure most people, in fact, I would say 99% of people would never be so unkind. But unkind sticks and it lasts. So, if you're ever feeling that way about someone, and whether that be someone because they're tall or because they're large or because they're loud or because maybe if they smell a little bit or anything like that, we always need to be a bit kinder.
That was absolutely heartbreaking.
On the same holiday, by the way, has anyone been to Tenerife?
Yeah.
Did you go to Siam Park, the water park?
It was closed when I went.
If anyone listening goes to Tenerife, Siam Water Park is absolutely fucking mint. It's brilliant. And there was some kindness there, right? My husband is fucking shit scared of slides. He won't go on anything, right? So I go up this slide. No, I'm doing it because I'm experiencing everything. I want to experience life and I'm obviously the same holiday, so I'm a big gent. I'm a bit like nervous, got my top off and all that. I'm not comfortable. And then I got to the top and I realized you could only go down. It was like a 4-person rubber ring. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm by myself. This is awful. And there's this German couple next to me, gorgeous young couple, can't be any older than 21. Both beautiful, both chiseled, gorgeous people. And I says to the girl, I says, do you speak English? She said, yeah. I said, I'm by myself. Could I just jump in with you? Would that be okay? And she was like, yeah, go on. Of course, it'll be brilliant. And it was really, and I didn't just sit next to them. We kind of experienced the queue together and the ride together and all that. And it was really lovely. So if anyone does go to Tenerife on holiday, Siam Park, absolutely mint. Well worth the queues, well worth the waiting. It's quite expensive. It's well worth the money. There's loads to do there. And the other one is if you go to Sunny Beach, if you go to Bulgaria, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's just called Aqua Park something. The water park there. Do you guys like a lazy river? You know, when you get in a dinghy, the lazy river at the water park in Bulgaria will kill you. When they turn the waves on in the lazy river, they're like 6 foot high waves. You're flying everywhere. They will kill you. It is brilliant. There's people drowning, people grabbing onto you for their life. It's fantastic. And then the best, I'll just say while I'm here as well, talking about travel, the best city break I've done, if anyone does like weekend city breaks or anything like that. So I'm talking about Tenerife and Lanzarote and these places, Bulgaria, these places I've been. I've also been to Moscow. I've been to Tallinn in Estonia. I've been to Helsinki in Finland. I've been to Bruges. I've been to Brussels. So I've been to some great cities as well. Tallinn in Estonia is absolutely fantastic. It's the most gorgeous city with the most wonderful people, and the food is unreal. They have like a square and it isn't much to look at, and it's like on the side of a castle, and there's like the guttering that comes out of the castle is like dragons' necks and mouths and faces, and it's just really awesome. Feels like quite like medieval feeling. So if anyone's looking for a city break, I can highly recommend Tallinn, and really affordable. Although it was about, I think it was about 10 years ago I went, but it's a really brilliant city. If anyone else has got any great recommendations for holidays or travel or any sort of hurtful or embarrassing or funny stories, this is a great time.
You boys want to go? Or?
Mate, look at the most travel I get to the corner shop. I don't.
Why don't you tell us all about the time that you nearly killed my little brother in a...
No, I didn't nearly kill him. Dad nearly killed him. When I was 15, we went to Tunisia, and I was floating on a lilo, and so was my little brother, but he couldn't swim, and he was in the deep end with me because obviously he was near me because we were together, and my dad, you know, as one is to do, went to dive bomb onto me. But my little brother was at that stage where, you know, when kids get to the stage where when they idolize one of the siblings, they copy them. So my dad's a big man, and I don't want him to jump on me. So I dove off the lilo into the water, but so did my brother off his lilo. That wasn't the one my dad was going for, but he can't swim. So I'm under the water, so's my brother. My dad hits the water. I come up, and my dad's like splashing around, kicking off. Where's your brother? I don't know. I've just come up from the water. And he's going absolutely mental. Get your brother, get your brother. I was like, get my brother from where? And he was like, he's under the water. So
it's not in the restaurant, Warren.
Yeah. So I'm like, what? Spinning round. And next thing, my dad's under the water, gone. Throws my brother up in the air, and he's like, got him out of the water. And then he's calling me every name under the sun. It was my fault. I almost killed my brother. No, I didn't.
Any great stories, Cam?
Well, we was coming back from UK holiday, so we went down South Coast. We went to Eastbourne down that way. Really enjoy Eastbourne, but even though it's quite an old town, but it's quite just enjoyable, just relaxed kind of weekend thing. And we was coming back, and we got reverted back from Ashford, and we was trying to come back up, and we got to Ashford, and this lovely woman come up with her mum, and her mum was going back here, so back where me and Ben live now, and she was just like, "Oh, my mum can't really travel on her own, and I can't really go and leave my kids." So she's like, "Do you want to just take her home?" I was like, "Okay." So me and Grace, my partner Grace, just ended up fucking escorting this old woman home, and it'd been raining really, really bad like the days before. So like when we got to we got back to London, the whole upper concourse where our train goes from was completely flooded, and they'd cancelled about 4 trains. So you got about, I don't know, 400 people trying to get on one train, like the last one of the night, because they cancelled everything else. Train finally arrives about an hour and a half, 2 hours after us waiting, and it's I think like it's 2 carriages before like 400 people. So like we're trying to push past with suitcases and this old lady that we've just like picked up along the way, and we get on and we don't get any seats. So like we just get on to like the middle part of the train where like you can walk between the two carriages. and we're sat in there with probably about 20 other people, like all jammed in, and literally this bloke was walking back and forth checking on different people from his family. Bear in mind there's adults in 2 groups of the families, and for like an hour he's pushing past everybody, and like it literally is just full on, like just making chaos on this little train with like 150 people on it, and it was just absolute chaos for like a whole hour. And it was,
I would 100% rather walk.
Honestly, it was just chaos. Like
I got on a train.
Back.
I got on a train to Glasgow once and had to stand up for 5 hours from Manchester to Glasgow because the train was so full.
Don't forget the train where you almost shit yourself.
Yes, Warren. Yes, Warren. But I think you'll find I didn't shit myself on the train. I was in the comfort of my own. I was in the comfort of my own home before I shat myself, so it doesn't even really count.
Shared home.
Somebody else's home. He asked the owner to give him a towel.
Go on, Ben. What you got?
Well, I like you. I've been to a few different places. The Alps up in Switzerland. Anybody that ever wants to again visit somewhere quite. It's one of the most beautiful scenic places I think I'm ever going to see in my life. So back in the old day, I was like Cam. I was a little beaver, Cub Scout, whatever, you know. We got a bit older. Our holidays progressed. We ended up in the Swiss Alps, camping right at the top, you know, big campsite. And you could literally just sit out the front of your tent and all you could see across all of the mountains, Edelweiss growing, the glaciers at the top, all the moon, the stars. Honestly, one of the most picturesque places, and you can see all the little huts and wooden shacks down the mountains into the valleys, all their little fires going, and it's such a beautiful place just to really feel like you're away from absolutely everything. Equally, Prague in the Czech Republic, it's a very, very nice place to go and visit as well. Some very old town, narrow streets, little markets and stalls up the hills and up the concrete. Absolutely beautiful as well.
It's like the up-and-coming holiday destination the last few years, isn't it? The Czech Republic.
Absolutely. It's still using their own Czech koruna currency. Don't tell them I snuck a few out. I've got some in my world money jar. You know, I collect coins from around the world. So if anybody subscribes wants to post me a random coin, I've got some that I shouldn't have. Apparently, not allowed to be taken out of the country. But don't tell anyone. I've got a few. I'm not a launderer or anything. I just like collecting world coins and old
banknotes. Get raided this week.
Yeah, I've got one of the old English £1 notes and things like that, like proper crisp one and things. I just like collecting them. I just like the different currencies and cultures of the world. My worst experience, I think you boys know, during COVID, I got stuck in Malta, couldn't get home. They grounded all the flights in the middle of Malta. I had to get an emergency flight home, which was twice the value of actually the amount I paid for the holiday. Never managed to claim anything back for the holiday or the flights because they told me I abandoned, you know. Oh, sorry that fucking COVID shut down the fucking country. Do you know what I mean? So because
you abandoned it.
Yeah, because I chose to go home and not be stuck there isolated. So here's the story, right? So we landed in the country. You get out of the airport, and when I tell you it was like something out of Resident Evil Ghost Town, I am not exaggerating. There was not one fucking person in that airport except the one guy checking your passport in with his thermal camera, making sure you've not got temperatures or whatever. That was the only guy in the whole airport. Literally the only guy, except the staff that were on the plane that come off with us. There was no transfer people. There was no reps. There was not even a vending machine or something to get a drink, food, nothing. So we get to the hotel and they said, well, if you check in, you're stuck here for 2 weeks at your own cost. I said, well, we're only here for a week all inclusive. And she said, yeah, well, the first week we will provide you with meals and things like that while you're locked in your rooms. And it will be meals that we choose for you. You won't get a choice of food. We'll put it outside your door, knock. That's what you're getting. Tough shit for that first week. The second week, you'll have to pay for the hotel and pay for any food yourself. We weren't allowed to leave to go to the shops or anything like that. So she said, if I check you in, you're stuck here for 2 weeks. Other than that, you can go back to the airport and try and get a flight home. So we had to get an emergency flight home. It was about 26 hours on the go by the time we'd left from the UK, got there, grounded, couldn't find a way, whatever, got an emergency flight home. It was chaos. It was the worst experience of my lifetime and one that I am very much not looking forward to again. And for anybody else, I mean, it's going to tie into my subject quite well as well, I think. That was the start of when I started to learn that I had mental health issues and susceptible to breakdowns and things like that, because it caused me to have the most major breakdown of my entire life. And it was bad. And I'm not going to go into the full story. It's quite upsetting for me, to be honest, but it was bad. Really, really bad. So anybody that was affected during COVID and things like that, I can empathize. It started me on my journey. It was horrendous. So to the point now where I'm shit scared to ever get on a plane and go on holiday again. I mean, I went on a cruise ship. Thank Christ I had, partner, mum and dad with me. So I felt at least a bit more comfortable. But again, I could only go on the UK one because I was right close to our land. And in my head, as soon as something goes fucking wrong, I can just swim back. Like, it's not, I know people are going to laugh about it, but to me, I was close enough to be able to get home without too much trouble should the world go to fucking pot again. And I think that's why I wanted to sort of talk a little bit about mental health, because there are going to be triggers in all of our lives that sort of, you could go. I'm going to be honest, okay? I was one of the naive people that locks everything in Pandora's box for 15 plus years. Everything. Somebody passed away, lost a family member, relationship breaks up, lost a job, whatever. Fuck it. Just get up, carry on. Just get up, carry on. Just get up, carry on. Nothing fucking affects me. Nothing bothers me. I don't show emotion. I don't feel nothing. It's easy. You lock it in Pandora's box, you keep going. And when people would say, I struggle with anxiety, I struggle with depression, whatever, I can't get up in the morning, I used to be naive, and I'll be honest, and think, oh, for fuck's sake, just get on with it. Stop moaning, because I'd become so good at it and it didn't bother me. I thought, well, everyone else is just being a bit, they should just have a bit more about them and just get on with it. But actually, what you might find is that male and females are both susceptible to mental health, but in a very different way. I don't know if anybody knows. So here's something for you, right? Most common mental disorders, 1 in 5 women experience a mental disorder, whereas only 1 in 8 men experience one. Okay, and that's anxiety or depression. What you will see is that people that go and get diagnosed with a mental condition is actually 51% female and only 35% of men. So straight off the cuff, you can see that females will go and get diagnosed. They will talk about it. They have more ability to deal with what's going on and actually talk to a professional and get help. Okay, that you can see that by the amount of people that actually go and get diagnosed. Now, what's interesting is that females struggle a lot more with anxiety and social related mental, and I'm not saying this is true for every person, however, but on a general scale, females struggle a lot more with social anxieties and depressions, whereas males are three times more likely to be susceptible to alcohol dependency, substance abuse, or suicide than a female. So what you can see from the figures and what I was saying to you before is how it affects the different dynamics entirely, is that females will be a lot more anxious and depressed and trying to seek help and solitude, whereas because of the stigma that society has put on that men can't talk, men are the strong people, they rely a lot more on, and you'll see it, hitting the pubs, getting drunk with the lads every night after work, taking substances, marijuana, heroin, cocaine, whatever, to suppress everything so that they can put on the front to be this strong individual that society makes them out to be, which ultimately then ends up in a lot more men committing suicide than what you would see in a female. I think the last stats and figures that I got, it was something like 17 men per 100,000 would commit suicide a year, whereas it's only sort of 5.5 per 100,000 in a female. So there's a lot more men that will not talk about it, that will not get the help, that will just simply deal with it for as long as they can, and then they would just commit suicide and probably, and I think 9 out of 10 cases, most people would not ever have been aware they were even dealing with anything. I know it's a bit of a hard subject, but I just wanted to bring it up because I know all of us boys, and Andrew touched on it earlier, with the way people treat us and the, you don't know what somebody else is going through. All 4 of us will contest and say that We have all been big lads for a long time, and a lot of our life we've all struggled with it. We've all tried our damn hardest with fucking diet after diet after diet, and we're still trying to find something that works for us to improve our health and to improve the way we feel about ourselves. So, like what Andrew was saying earlier, don't think you need to fucking tell us that we're fat. We know. We deal with this day in, day out. We look in the fucking mirror and we detest what we see. Because you don't see that, because we put on a laugh and a joke and a bit of a front and we make idle jokes about it ourselves, like, oh, you fat bastard, give me another biscuit, okay, doesn't mean that we actually think that. We are dealing with it probably where nobody can see. And so I know all of us boys have had, Cam, right in that corner?
Good, mate. I'm all good.
Good. Was, I know you and Andrew as well, like things have not been a smooth ride for either of you either.
Yeah, I think weight is definitely something that we will definitely at some point will come up with us as a longer conversation, especially when you said about the things that we've tried and things that have worked and things that maybe don't work for us. But I think what you've said about men's mental health in particular is a really, really important point. I'm thrilled to see this kind of push over the last few years of trying to get men to talk, because obviously, as you said, that's the issue. You're expected to be a certain way if you're a man, and we still live in fortunately we live in a time now where it's an open discussion, but there's still generations of people above us who are uncomfortable having a discussion and are uncomfortable with the idea that they might not be okay and having people know they might not be okay. Yeah.
And it's one of those subjects we're not afraid to talk about it. You know? Why should we be? It's quite apparent that whether you're a male or a female, we all struggle.
Yeah. Do you think there's a feeling of sometimes, because it's quite a well-known fact that I've struggled with my mental health a lot, and do you think there's a feeling sometimes, or for me, I've found in the past there's been a feeling of like people won't think it's real. People won't think it's a real thing. People will think I'm attention seeking, or people will think they've been through worse. So, I've just got to suck it up because actually, because my life, it really hasn't, it's been all right. So what have I got to complain about? Sometimes I think you get that feeling.
From what I know, because when I had my breakdown, I spent 2 months doing a free course. So if anybody wants to do it as well, Mental Health England, the MHE, do offer free courses 2 to 3 times a year where you can become a mental health first aider. I did it originally.
I'm a mental health first aider. I did it with school.
Good lad, good lad. I did it purely on the basis that I wanted to learn what I was experiencing or I was feeling, as opposed to actually helping people initially. So I did it for that reason. It's a very in-depth course. It covers everything from suicides to self-harm to substance abuse to loss and grievances and things like that. It's a very, very interesting course. But what you...
Yeah, I think it helps you, I find, because a lot of people don't know what to say, and I think it just helps you to know the right things to say.
And yeah, I mean, this is going to sound horrible, and I don't mean it this way. Human nature, the only way. So if one of you boys says to me as a human, so and so my family's passed away, the only way that humans know how to empathize and care for that person is by picking a memory of a time where they felt the same way that you possibly could have done and relate the subject. Okay, so then what happens, without even meaning to, and again, don't take offense to any of this, to anybody in the world, because of your want to empathize and care for that individual in a moment of need, subconsciously what you then do is start talking about how you felt in that moment, how you felt in that situation, and what you did to get through it, as opposed to actually letting the person that's struggling digest and deal with the emotion in their own way. And it's not a bad thing, I'm not saying that, but somebody who is struggling really badly with mental health will straight away off the cuff go, oh my God, man, I'm so sorry that you felt that way. And so when they're the ones that need help, they then become again the person that now empathizes with you and doesn't deal with their things. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but for somebody with mental health, they need that more open-ended, unbiased conversation where you're not picking stories to relate to. You're just saying, how did you feel in that moment? Oh, do you know what triggered it? Do you know how to make yourself feel better without bringing a story or something like that into that? And it's quite a hard thing to do. Most people will always empathize. That's how we deal with things.
Yeah.
But it's important to know that just because you don't experience mental health issues as such, or maybe have good ways of coping or good coping strategies, does not mean that everybody else is the same. A lot of what happens is down to the signals and electrical impulses in your brain working a certain way. That doesn't mean that nobody experiences it. Equally, it doesn't mean that everybody will experience it. Something along the way has tripped. Think of it like a set of wiring or a fuse box or something like that. Something in your life has tripped a fuse, and now your wiring's all out of sync and all out of kilter, and now it's not working the way it should, and that causes an electrical impulse to tell you you're now anxious about being in a group of more than 2 or 3 people. That electrical impulse now tells you, oh my God, I feel really depressed today, but you can't put a pinpoint or a trigger onto why you feel that way. Oh my God, I've got really low self-confidence today, but I couldn't tell you why, because that fuse is not active. It's just tripped. The impulses are telling you that you feel low, you're not worthy as a person, you don't like who you are. And that's where the thoughts of anxiety, depression, suicide all come from. Just because you don't experience it's very difficult to understand other people's perspective. And over the weeks, I'm sure it's something we'll cover in more depth as we go through different topics and how it affects people. I just wanted to put it on the radar and say, look, actually, we're not afraid to talk about it as a group of 4 lads who all struggled at some point, and we'll keep bringing it up in more conversation.
Yeah, thanks, man. So it is an interesting topic. I think it'll come up again. If anyone does feel like they need to reach out to us, or of course, you can talk to the Samaritans. They have text, email, and phone call services. You can text. Shout, have a 24-hour text service. There's Rethink Mental Illness, Mind, or Calm, or of course, you can see your GP as well about mental health issues.
I can also forward you the links to the Mental Health England page if you wanted to study or have a copy of the books they use, or do the course yourself.
Brilliant. Wozzy, moving on. What have you got for us this week?
Well, I'm kind of like in a mode now, because I was like, now I feel like I should say something cheery, but my whole thing was also going to be not a great thing. It's like,
let's do it.
Well, I was thinking about like we're getting close to Christmas now, and I obviously work in retail, and it's getting to that time of the year where it just gets tougher and tougher and harder to get day to day and want to keep working where we work. So I was thinking of going through like some of our worst work experiences in places we've worked that have made us either, just quit up and leave, or have made us want to just storm out. And I was thinking back to a job that you actually got me, Andrew. You got me an interview with. I'm not going to name names. Yeah, I'm not going to name names.
I think they're in prison now.
Well, let's not name names, but I remember once all the staff had slowly but surely quit and left the job, and I was obviously in need of the job, so I needed the money. I was living on my own at the time. I was in quite a bit of debt from back rent and stuff like that, so I couldn't quit. So I think there was 4 of us left: the 2 owners, the owner's daughter, and me, and we were the only ones left. So we were picking up, it was a care job, so we were picking up runs here and there, and they basically, when I was supposed to be off, picked me up, asked me for a favor, could you do this? Obviously I had to, because I'm not going to see people go without care. And they would pick me up and drop me off and go, here's the run, go do this, and we'll come pick you up and we'll take you to the next run afterwards. And we would do that. And there was one night in particular, I think it was one of the last nights, because they screwed us all with wages as well. So in the end, they didn't even pay us all. So, but they picked me up and dropped me off, and then they were late picking me back up. I actually got sunburnt one day when they left me for an hour in the sun waiting for them. I was red and I burn easy. But this was a night time and they left me alone. And then when they finally did pick me up, I just walked all these rounds and they were like, we're just going to do these last few and then we'll take you home. And I was like, well, I'm absolutely gagging for a drink. I was like, do either of you have a drink? I've just done all these walks and the rounds. And so one of them said, there's a bottle of Oasis here. You can have some of this. So I've obviously picked up the Oasis and took a little swig out of it. And it was pure vodka, just full of vodka. But this was the person that was driving this drink who was clearly hammered. But I've obviously never been a fan of drunk driving. I don't drive. But and then after all of what had been said and done and all the runs were done, they then had to go somewhere, so couldn't take me home. So left me about an hour and a half's walk away from my house to walk back to then ring me. And this was at daft o'clock in the morning because obviously because I was the only one, it was just getting later and later and later. So I got home early hours of the morning for them to ring me again just a few hours later to ask me could I come back out and do the morning run with them. And I think that was the breaking point for me where I just had to say, I can't keep doing this. I can't. And then obviously because of all the situation that happened, they refused to pay the wages as well. So I basically did most of that for free. And that was just one of the situations where I had a terrible work experience in the job. One so bad that I actually got out of that industry and I haven't been back to care since.
It says something. I mean, you work in retail now. It's currently Christmas time. It says something that that is worse than that.
Yeah. But I have a story about that. Don't get me wrong. I have stories about retail, but I still work at this one, so I'll wait till it's ex-employment and then they'll all come out.
Yeah.
And there'll be just some juicy secrets there as well about your current employer. Everyone will be interested to hear them.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll hold on to them for now. Keep them on the back burner.
I guess I've been quite fortunate because I basically did loads of crap jobs when I was younger, when I was at uni and stuff, and then freelanced for a few years before I got into classroom teaching. And I've always been quite lucky because, with less, I was a classroom teacher qualified for less than 2 years when I got promoted, which is it's quite uncommon to be less than 2 years in and to run a department. And I love my job. It's my busiest time of year right now, and it is difficult and it is stressful. But I do work with someone. The other girl who I work with full time, she's brilliant, so that's helpful. But I did my last school was a really horrendous place to work. There was just no control over the kids, and the sort of, the kids was really awful. And kids will be awful if you let them. The problem is that the school was so poorly managed. But I always say SLT, so the senior leadership team. I think they can be useless if they're nice, and I think they can be twatty if they're really good. But unfortunately, at that school, they were neither good nor nice. And for me, it was a terrible, terrible school. And it was such a promising opportunity when I took the job. But it went from bad to shit quite quick. But really, I think I've been professionally quite lucky.
I think we've all got horror stories from previous jobs. Sheesh, I've had more jobs than I've had hot dinners, I think. Different companies, different fields of expertise and things like that. One thing that's common in all of the jobs, though, is the amount of time this time of year that you spend away from family, away from your children, cracking the hours in just to make sure they can have the best time for essentially what is just one day. The cost of living's through the roof. The cost of presence is through the roof. So we're kicking in more hours, doing more overtime, and seeing less reward from it. And then, unfortunately, if you're like some of us, Christmas for me is not a nice time. I don't like Christmas. A lot of my childhood traditions, family are no longer here, so I don't really see the benefit to Christmas anymore, and I would rather go to work. But equally now, the job that me and Cam do, we do go to work and we end up supporting people who can't go to see their family and friends, and I feel like I benefit at Christmas even though I don't benefit.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Cam?
So I don't know. I've had quite a few bad jobs, like small jobs after I left like a main job when I was like in my early 20s. But like I worked at a pub for 5 years, and it was like a village pub, but I mean the village got bigger, like expanded as the pub, like, as I worked there. So there's a lot more different people. And when I first joined, it was quite a rough pub. So we had probably I worked under 3 managers in about a year. Trying to troubleshoot the pub and get it up to scratch and like getting people out that just definitely shouldn't have been in the pub. People we knew like with trouble people. But I mean, the second manager I worked under, because I was so eager, because I was quite young at the time, I was wanting to learn everything. So for about 6 weeks, I was coming in early on days that I was meant to be in to come and do like stock take, make sure like all the pumps and everything were clean, all that kind of stuff. On shifts on the same days I was doing those shifts, I was working like 2-3 extra hours because somebody was calling sick, because it was a lot of uni kids just working like over the summer, like getting ready to go away and go back to uni. And then on some nights, like I was even staying later to try to help clean the kitchen down and do like stock rotation and shit like that. And then some days, like even on the days off, I was coming in to do like beer deliveries. So like that was like 6 weeks, and I think I was getting about an average about 2-3 hours of sleep a night for like 6 weeks. And but then back then to me there was no problem, but somebody should have sat there and gone, "You're doing too much," because I wasn't getting paid for all the extra shit as well. And literally, I think afterwards I slept for about 2-3 days. Just I didn't realize how bad my head was going around everything. So I was trying to learn everything, but while going through, like Ben was saying, we all go through kind of different shit at different times. And like literally, I was just getting absolutely just fucking tired as anything. And then I worked there for about 5 years, but I spent the last 3 years sitting there saying I'm going to leave. Like, I've had enough of this shit. Like, but I had no idea what I wanted to do. And yeah, shit just went from bad to worse. Like all my friends that I'd made working there, had like you, Warren, like everybody had left. So I felt like an obligation to stay because I'd been there the longest and I knew kind of what I was doing and that.
Yeah.
And then I ended up picking up like supervisor roles, which I wasn't getting paid for because I had specifically said I don't want to work as a supervisor because I don't want all the responsibility for all the shit that they go through. And then I ended up working it anyway. But yeah, I mean, I've got good memories from the pub of like the people and stuff. But I mean, there was just a lot of small village drama that just didn't need to be there, and it was just I think I just started to shut down and started hating people like for no reason.
I think a lot, like what you just said, a lot of what makes you stay at some jobs is the people you work with, because you do get on with these people and you bond with them and you want to kind of see it through for them and with them. I just want to make a little comment on to the what you were saying before about families and Christmas, and I'm sorry if this is like a thing, you can cut it if you want to, but I work obviously in retail, so I'm aware of other retails and different retail things and whatnot, and there's B&M do a scheme for families that can't afford gifts for the kids for Christmas, and it's currently running till Christmas. I'm actually like I go past it all the time, I see it all the time. It's you basically just, if you get a gift and you just put it into this trolley, someone comes and picks it up from a team and they take it to kids for Christmas. Now, on the back of that, there's always, anyone that goes to B&M knows there's a 2 for 20 deal on that they do for toys. Well, by the time this video releases, that deal is going to have changed to a 3 for 20. So essentially, you're getting a free toy in there for the same price. So if anyone's willing to just buy a free toy and just put it in that basket so a kid can get a present for Christmas, B&M is doing that.
Yeah, there's also there's the charity, the Giving Tree as well. So we do a box for the Giving Tree every year. So what they do is you can choose for it to be for a family in your community, and you basically make like a little box of presents for a child in a family that's struggling. So the Giving Tree, the web, you just type into Google the Giving Tree, their website's there. But yeah, that's a really lovely thing that B&M are doing. And I don't know. I suppose it's not B&M doing it.
I'm not sure about you boys, but I stopped by my local Costa earlier, and aside from boxes and toys and things like that, my local Costa asked if we would be willing to just pay £2.40 for one of the mince pie tarts, so that they can take them down to the local hospital chemotherapy ward, so that everybody that's having chemotherapy over Christmas Day and Boxing Day could at least have a coffee and a mince tart and celebrate a bit of Christmas while having their therapy. I don't know about any of you boys, but you know, £4.50 for a coffee just to put the extra £2.40 in seemed like a sensible thing for me. Brought 2 coffees, we put 2 mince pies in the box. Just you know, we did that today as well. Anyway, just there's many things out there. You know, the homeless shelters, the food banks are doing collections and things. So even if you had 2 or 3 extra tins of soup that you're not going to use, that's not your favourite flavour, you can always drop them off. This time of year is going to be hard for homeless people, people who are going to be in hospital, children, family, people having chemo. So anything we can do to support anybody I think would be by the society.
Yeah,
I love that. What a lovely way to finish. Should we finish with a joke?
Go on.
Go on, Warren.
It's not the once you've seen one, you've seen them all.
That is the best joke ever, though. Tiernan said to me, Andrew, will you stop impersonating a flamingo? So of course I had to put my foot down.
Oh my
That's like a Christmas cracker joke there.
Come on, it's good.
Christmas cracker joke.
Okay, so for the festive season, is that what we do to finish every one of these till the new year? We pull the worst Christmas cracker joke. Yeah.
One a week. Cam, you're next week.
You're next week, Cam.
All right, I'll get one.
Okay, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure talking beards with you, and I will see you next week.
Thank you, gents.
See you next week.
Go on, say it, Wozzy.
Oh, what?
I've been Wozzy Watches.
Good
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.